Hello everyone, welcome back. Thanks for waiting, thanks for being patient, thanks for tuning in, thanks for listening. Tim here, I'm back. I'll talk if you'll listen, episode 31. Thank you so much. I know I've been away and I'm not going to get into too much detail, only because although you all are my extended family, there are just certain details that I think I should just leave off the air, but I'm back. I've been away for a bit for so many different reasons, primarily just due to depression and a little bit of laziness. I'm not going to lie. When you're not getting paid to do something, that's like a huge motivation. Opportunity is like gone, because money, any monetary reason can be very, very motivational to do anything. And when you look at it, you know, I'm not getting paid to do this. This is a hobby. I'm passionate about it. I want to do it. I want this to blow up. I want this to be really amazing. But at the end of the day, it's a hobby. So sometimes it gets really tough to prioritize a hobby that doesn't generate any money to over other things like being social, like work, like relationships, things like that. Sometimes it just feels really nutty, you know, just really nutty to be like, hey, you know I haven't seen you in over a year, but I'm not going to hang out with you because I have a show to record. And I understand being on my grind and making time. And that's where I equate the laziness and, just not like sometimes it is tough to prioritize a hobby, specifically this show, over hanging out with somebody that I may not get the chance to soon, or sometimes just laziness where it's like, hey, I just don't feel like it. I really do value and this is me being really honest with you all. I didn't want to pull anything out of my behind and try to say it was one thing and it really wasn't. But, I really value my alone time. I do. I value my privacy. Sometimes I prioritize that over even things like the show, even things like the other hobbies that I have. It can be a little bit of a headache to juggle stuff sometimes, and other times the decision is a whole lot easier than you think. You just do the thing that you want to do. But luckily, bit by bit, I've been inching back to the show, and here I am recording another episode. I don't really have much to talk about. There are things that I want to talk about, but I really don't have much to talk about. I don't have any interviews. This is just like a catch-up episode to me. Let you all know what I've been up to over the past, what has it been? Oh, geez. 3 months? Over the past 3-4 months, what I've been up to, what's changed, what's still the same, and what you guys can expect in the future. So I appreciate you all being patient with me. And let me tell you something. I know I've said this before when I've taken breaks in the past. I really do appreciate all of you who've been on my back. A lot of my listeners, so part of the reason that makes my listening base so awesome is a lot of my listeners I know. At least a lot of the ones that participate in the gift card giveaways, the interviews, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of you all I interact with on a daily basis, whether you be a coworker, whether you be a close friend, whether you be a lodge brother. I interact with you often. And when I tell you the amount of people who were on my case, whether I saw them once a month or whether I saw them every day on my case about, hey, where's the show? Where's the show? And not like in a pressure, bad, negative way, but more like in a inquisitive, curious, wanting to help, like a concerned type of way. Like, hey, what's up? You really care about this thing. You like this thing a lot. What have you been up to? You have goals, you have dreams, you have aspirations. What have you been up to? And I like that level of accountability because it's enough pressure to make me get back on the ball and do what I got to do. But it's not too intense to where I feel like I'm being scrutinized or crucified or anything like that. So again, I do appreciate everyone. And I'm not going to name names because I'm not going to name everybody. I'm going to forget people. And with my luck, it'll be that person that listened to every episode ever that I forgot the name, and then I'll see them on Monday and they'll be like, damn, you forgot me. So I don't want to name any names, but you know who you are. And quite honestly, you don't need me to name you. You know who you are. I really do appreciate it. I do. So what have I been up to? What's been going on? Well, the last episode that I put out here, let me actually check. I think it was February. Let's check here. We're going to go to podcasts, shows. Let's see. February 1st. So it was the 1st of February, 2 months into the new year. And then nothing. So quite a bit, over 4 months now. Basically 5, really. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get this out tonight, which is the last day of June, or if I'm going to drop this tomorrow morning. I'm not entirely sure. I'm still leaning towards tonight. It's still pretty early on the Sunday here. But we're talking almost 5 months without you all hearing from me, and subsequently me hearing all from you in a certain way. Some of you, again, I interact with on an everyday basis, so I can interact with you there. But I love coming up with an awesome topic or a topic I'm passionate about, or having a guest on the show, and you all see me the very next week or the next day, and you want to talk about the show and such. I do miss that, so I can't wait to bring that back. But what have I been up to since February? Well, relationship has been taxing in some areas, and it's been great in others. We both are about to make a pretty big move, both literally and figuratively. We are moving in together, and it's going to be a huge thing for me, because I'm just so used to being by myself. Like I've lived with both a family, like my family. I lived with extended family, and I lived with one other person, and I lived by myself. And I really do enjoy living on my own. I really enjoy having a space to run away to. One thing that, even though I'm sure she's going to hear this, it's different when I'm talking to you all versus like talking to her about it. We're just two different people, you know, and I really, really value my alone time. I do. And to have this space where I live at now to be my getaway, you know, my getaway from her, my getaway from work, my getaway from my social life, you know, where I can just turn everything off and be in my own little fortress of solitude. I won't have that anymore, at least not to the same level that I have it now. And it'll be a heck of an adjustment. There are some things I'm really looking forward to. I'm really looking forward to taking the next step in our relationship. I think this is very necessary to see where we go from here. So it's very important. Also, you can know somebody your whole life and not really know them because you don't live with them. So I'm looking forward to getting to know her better as a person. And for those of you out there saying, oh, you shouldn't be moving in with somebody you don't know that well, I really think that we really don't know somebody as best as we think we do. One, that we only know the side that they choose to show us first and foremost. But secondly, most times, we don't really even know ourselves. You know, we're constantly growing. We're constantly figuring out what we like and dislike. There may be things that we liked before and not so much now, and vice versa. That how can you really justify somebody? How can you really justify catching an attitude or feeling a way that somebody doesn't really know you that well when you're not the same person you were yesterday? You know, so that's what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to getting to know her on a deeper level, a more intimate level. I'm not looking forward into the like disputes or the arguments in like a practical sense, but I am looking forward to the disputes and the arguments from a growth sense, like just to grow, to move on to the next level. So that's huge. We did a lot of logistical stuff today. And we're going to make some moves in the coming weeks, and hopefully come August, we'll have our place, and we'll be attempting to settle in, and we'll have people over. I'm sure we'll have friends over. We'll have family over, more her family. Me, my friends are my family. For her friends, her family are her friends. Her family is her friends. Yeah, family singular, right? Her family is her friend. That's a tough. How would you say that? I'm going to leave this in. I'm not going to edit this out. I'm not too proud to admit that, because family is singular. I guess I would say everyone in her family is her friend. I guess that's the best way I can put it. But like her family members, there we go. I'll add members to it. Her family members are her friends. And although she has friends, what I would do with my friends, she would do with her family, So we're just two different people in that sense, but I'm sure we'll have friends and family over and it'll be a good time. It'll be a heck of a learning experience. And I'm sure I get on her nerves too. And I'm sure I make her really, really happy. So there are a lot of things that she'll have to learn and grow with as I learn and grow. But I'm really looking forward to that. So before I switch gears here, if anyone has been living with their partner for however long, or if anyone is thinking about pulling that trigger, or if anyone has recently moved in with their partner, please hit me up. Let me know. You already know how to get in touch with me, but for anyone new listening, if this is your first episode listening, it's I'll talk. All of this will be in the description of the show, but I'll talk if you'll listen at hotmail.com, or you can hit me up on Instagram, Twitter. I would love to know what you're thinking. I'd love to know what that process was like for you if you recently moved in. Hit me up if you have any regrets. Let me know. Like, what do you regret? What are you grateful for? What do you feel like was a really awesome benefit? Let me know, because I am going through a swirl of emotions making this decision. I've been at the place that I've been at right now by myself for over 5 years. So we're talking half a decade, which isn't a long time, but it's still enough time to get used to being alone and being by yourself. I was talking to one of my good friends on what it's like being in her place by herself right now. And it was a bit of an adjustment period, but now it just seems normal, and that's what I'm thinking. Like, I think it's easier to adjust from going to living with someone to going to live by yourself than the other way around. Going to live by yourself than going to live with someone. You just got to get used to sharing space and such. So let me know. Let me know what your thought process on when it was, any hesitations. How close did you get before you decided to pull the trigger, on whether it was like no or yes? Let me know. I would love to bounce some ideas off of you. What else have I been up to? Of course, catching up on some movies. Avengers Endgame. That was huge when that came out. John Wick 3, etc. So definitely, if you've seen those movies, you already know where I'm coming from. Those movies were great. I got a promotion at work, so that was cool. It was a tough transition initially, but it was something that worked out. So I did get a promotion at work, and I want to talk about work too. And I know I don't do that often, especially because I have coworkers who listen to the show, and that's like sticky territory. You don't ever want to find yourself in like some sort of HR fiasco because of something. But at the end of the day, this is outside of work, so I can say whatever I want. I just try my best to be as conscious as I can be. But I am going to dive into some stuff about work because I want to get you all's opinion on some things about work. But moving on to the depression. We talked about this before. I believe it was episode 19, somewhere around there. We talked about therapy and mental health, especially within the male community, where it really isn't encouraged. So we did talk about this a little bit, but the depression really hit me hard. I was going through so many different things, and a lot of it was work related. And, it really put me in a spot where you find yourself where you really don't want to do anything. And I think anyone who has been depressed has been really deep into depression, and they had to seek out medication or therapy or whatever external method to help them get out of that hole. Depression really is a hole. It is a deep, dark hole. Emphasis on dark. And you find yourself dealing with some things that you feel like you would have never dealt with before. And it's really tough to be depressed outside of the obvious, because when you have people in your network, you don't feel like they're there. Even when they are there, you don't feel like it. You just feel like you're alone. And then inadvertently, you start to do things to push them away, where you don't want to go out because you want to be in a house and you want to sulk all day. Or you don't, want to go out after work because you just want to be in a house to sulk all day. Or you don't want to get online and play the game with your friends because you want to sulk. And it's this thing where people around you have this network of people, but you push them away unintentionally. And then the people who do get through to you, the people who do have access to you, the people who you did confide in to tell them like, hey, I am depressed, they don't know what type of advice to give. And depression is an emotional, irrational feeling or thought process. That's what it is. And most people who want to be there for you don't know how to be there for you. So sometimes they give you incompatible advice. They give you rational advice. They give you logical advice. Hey, I'm here for you. Hey, you could have just picked up the phone and called me. And the toughest part about that is telling somebody who genuinely wants to help, letting them know that they're not helping, but also not letting them know how they can help. Depression is a bitch. It really is. And I am very grateful that I was able to pull myself out of it. Of course, with the help of a lot of different areas that I'm not going to get too specific about now. Just for the sake of embarrassment. But I will say that I did talk with a lot of friends, whether it be friend of friends, mutual friends, or really, really close friends about the depression. And I will say you don't realize how many people are there for you sometimes until you go through stuff like that. There are a lot of people who quantify friendship on how often you hang out or how often you see them, how often you do things for them like favors, return favors, how often you get them gifts, things like that, how often you attend their birthdays or wish them. There are a lot of people who quantify friendship on that. And I get that. But there's other people who don't quantify friendship on any of those things. They quantify friendship on how you make them feel. And as long as there's nothing that changes that, their feeling always remains the same. It may not be getting stronger, but it's not getting weaker. The more you hang out with somebody, the more you reach out to them, you create more opportunities to strengthen your bond. You create more opportunities to become closer. And I'm of the philosophy that although bonds and, friendships can get weaker, they can also just stay the same too. And I have a lot of friends like that. I actually hung out with a couple of them last night where I haven't seen them in some cases over a year. And here we are we're having dinner, picking up without missing a beat. And it just goes to show you, one, I think it says more about you as a person than it does to your friends actually sometimes. That your friends really want to go out on a limb and help you. But to see everyone's face last night when they asked me, because again, last night, like I told you, people beat up on me. Hey, where's the show? Where's the show? I mean that in a good way, by the way. They beat up on me in a good way. They're like, hey, where's the show? Where's the show? And one of my friends even asked, like, hey, why'd you stop? And I was really comfortable and just said, like, hey, look, I was depressed. And I went into detail that I'm not going to go into over the show. And they were just like, wow, man, well, we're here for it. And just to see them rally and just to see everyone's facial expression change, whether it be the closest person to me at the table, whether it be a childhood friend at the table, or whether it be a friend that I met through somebody else at the table, all of their faces showed concern, and they were genuinely concerned. So it's like stuff like that really does bring to light, like that you do have people in your corner. But depression doesn't always allow you to see that. It really doesn't. Sometimes not until after the fact. So depression can be really debilitating and gets to the point where you feel like you can't do anything. You don't want to do anything. You're completely just removed from reality. And in your mind, it's everybody's fault and it's nobody's fault and it's your fault all at the same time. And you go through a roller coaster of emotions where it could be like that song that you heard reminded you of the situation that you're in, or that building that you saw reminded you of the situation that you're in, or that email that you got at work reminded you of the situation that you're in. And it's like depression is like this nagging, gnawing thing that's like, hey, don't forget about me. And it I honestly feel like it never really truly goes away. It just gets suppressed. And I hope I'm wrong. But there are moments I slip back into it. There are moments where I slip back into it for brief periods of time, brief moments, and then I come right back out of it versus being stuck in it. And I think it's completely okay to be weak. It is. And let's call it for what it is. Let's not try to sugarcoat it. It's a moment of weakness. It is. And it truly humbles you. Or should. But it's okay to be weak. It is. But it's not okay to stay weak. It's okay to be weak. It's not okay to stay weak. And whatever that crane, that pulley, that rope is for you that you can latch onto and bring you out of that, you got to find it, recognize it, and amplify it. For me, it was my friends. For me, it was doing things that I love to do, like gaming. I wish I would have did the show, but depression stopped me. On top of the laziness and stuff, but depression was a big factor there. But another thing that really helps, which is another thing that I got into, is going to the gym. So both scientifically and psychologically, it helps a ton. And for those who have known me for quite some time now, they used to know that I used to be in the gym a lot, talking 5 days a week, a lot. And then I stopped, especially when I was training to become a police officer, training to join a police academy. I was in the gym a lot. And then I stopped. I stopped. I shouldn't have stopped, but I did. Hey, it happens. I'm not going to beat myself up about it. We all can't be perfect. But I stopped. And then I went through the depression. And then, I went back to the gym mid-March. I went right back to the gym. I think it was like the second week of March. I went right back to the gym, got right back into it. And that first day, I'm telling everybody right now, personal testimony, the first step is always the hardest step. And the hardest step is always the first step. It's just so, I can't put it any more plainly than that. And maybe I'll modify that a little bit and say the hardest step is the next step. And sometimes the next step can be the first step. But for real, if you think about it, it's just a bunch of first steps. It really is. And when you take that first step to the next step, it's such a good feeling. And when I tell you that first day, y'all, so let me walk y'all through this day. Okay, this was March. I already made a determination. Mind you, I've had this gym membership since I've had it. So I've had this gym membership since like 2009. So, and I haven't used it since like 2000. We're in 2019 now. Allegedly. No, I'm joking. 2019 now. I think the last time I used it was 2016. So 3 years ago. So we're talking like about 3 years of me just paying 2.5, let's call it 2.5 years of me paying this membership and not using it. So I already made a determination. I'm glad that I had it already, because that would have just been another hurdle, another obstacle, another thing that I had to do. And I would have just came up with more reasons to not do it. Like, oh, I got to go to the gym. I got to renew my membership, blah, 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 blah. So I will say that although I was paying for it and not using it, I did still have it, which was nice. So I already made the determination. I think like the first day that I went was Tuesday. So like I already made the determination, like, okay, I'm going to go. So alarm goes off about 30 to 40 minutes earlier than it normally does. I wake up and I'm laying in bed for like 5 minutes. And I'm like, I am so tired. I don't feel like getting up. This bed is everything right now. And then I just rolled out of bed. I rolled out of bed and I got up. And when I say the instant that my bare feet hit the carpet, I felt this sensation of like motivation, of like invigoration, this surge of energy. I don't know if it was just like sensory or if it was just mental. I couldn't tell you. But I was totally for getting up and going. So I get up, I go, I'm at the gym now, and I looked up a workout to do, like, just to get back into it. And I'm like, picking up the weights, and I get this rush of nostalgia, like, and this rush of like this energy that I can't quite describe, just being in the atmosphere and just remembering like I used to do this all the time. Then you get that, little bit of shame and a little bit of guilt because you're like, man, I'm not where I used to be. Why am I even here? I used to bench this much. I used to lift this much. I used to be able to do this many of this. And now you can't do that anymore. So you start to feel like worthless. But then you kind of just get into it. And like we're all creatures of habit. We all have our routines. Once you start that new routine, I felt so good. I felt great. And when I was walking back to the bus, which is another excuse I got to catch the bus, the bus was late. No, I got up. And this is not me ragging or reeling or anybody. This is not me trying to humble brag. But the only excuse is the one that you make. It really is that simple. The only excuse is the one that you decide to think up. But when I left the gym, I'm walking back to the bus. I feel great, y'all. I feel amazing. I feel on top of the world. And it was almost like I found my new drug. And I was like, I remember this feeling. I want this feeling back. And I just started to go again. And that's all it takes. It's chemistry, it's biology, it's a bunch of different science, but it's psychology too. It's like a mental game. So that definitely helped me out of my depression. That definitely helped me to feel better. And that definitely reinvigorated me to be the happy-go-lucky person you see today and here today. But that's pretty much all I've really been up to, y'all. Like, the depression was a huge thing. The promotion at work, getting back into the gym, seeing the positive results of getting back into the gym, the confidence boost. It just works. It just bleeds into other areas of your life. And I think we put a lot of emphasis on negative energy. We do. We put a lot of emphasis on negative energy, and we talk about how toxic behavior or toxic thoughts can be contagious and spread like an epidemic to different areas of your life. Positive energy is the same thing. It's yin and yang. Positive energy, negative energy, it's on the same side, two different sides of the same coin. So positive energy is also contagious. Positive energy also overflows to other people. So I post videos on the Instagram. I'm sure you all have seen them. But I post videos on the Instagram for tracking purposes. Tracking, self-accountability. I can do comparisons. I can look at my form and see where I need to, have teaching moments at. And some of you have actually jumped into that, which was pretty cool of you all to just say like, hey, lower the weight some, or hey, arch your back a little bit more, or spread your leg, things like that. Like, I appreciate that. But what I didn't realize, and what is now a part of the reason as to why I post, there are a ton of people. I was actually talking to a good buddy of mine today, Jerry. There are a ton of people who watch that, and Jerry's one of them, and goes like, and sees that and look at it as motivation, and it go like, you know what, I got to get back in the gym, or hey, I'm slacking off. And then I have like competitive friends who are like, oh, I can't let this guy pass me. Let me give an extra 10%. So if you need the motivation, I hope I can help. If you can't find it anywhere else, hopefully I can be that avenue for you. But positive energy is just as contagious, if not more contagious, than negative energy is. And I think it's actually harder to be positive sometimes. And when you do things that are a little bit more difficult in the long run, you feel better for it. You do. You feel like you've earned the right to be positive. You feel like you've earned the right to be happy. You feel like you've earned the right to be grateful. And I really appreciate that experience. I really, really do. But rolling right into what I wanted to talk to you all, it's so many different things. I'm going to be all over the place here, y'all. So actually, you know what? Before I do that, I actually did just do an unboxing video. I don't know if you all can tell, but I got a brand new microphone. I know I mentioned it in a couple of episodes before, but I finally opened it. I hooked it up, and it sounds amazing, everybody. It came with a pop filter. It's an awesome mic. It's the Snowball Black Ice microphone. It's amazing. Quick, easy setup. literally, it came with the microphone itself, which is a sphere. It's a big old ball, which hence the name Snowball. It comes with a stand that screws into the bottom, and you get the sync cable, or the plug cable, if you will, that goes in from the microphone to the computer. And that's it. No drivers, no CDs, nothing. Just plug it right in. If you're running Windows, you're running Macs. If you're running Windows, if you're on a Mac running iOS, it just helps. Just really easy setup, and it sounds great. And I did a couple of test runs just to see how I sound. And it sounds great. And I didn't even do any editing to it. So this sounds amazing already. And I can't wait to hear how it sounds after I mix everything together and edit it and pump out the final product. So I'm really excited to have this microphone. I'm really excited for you all to hear it. And I'm happy I can provide you all with better quality, better sound quality, better production quality. I'm really happy I can do that, but I couldn't do it without some of you. I have a Patreon. My patrons paid for this microphone. Not a cent came out of my pocket for it. So I really do appreciate my patrons. I really do. I'm not bringing in the bank. I'm not rolling in dough. I don't have millions or thousands or even hundreds of patrons. I don't even have dozens of patrons. But the patrons who are around, they support me. They love me. And if you want to be a part of that community, it's a great community to be a part of. They're just so caring, and some of my closest friends and some awesome people. So if you want to be a part of that community, or if you just want to help me get better, whether it be production quality, better microphones, better equipment, whatever the case may be, helping me to pay to get a guest on, whatever the case may be, I really do appreciate it. No pressure at all. You don't have to join a Patreon at all, but I do appreciate every penny that the patrons dedicate their hard-earned money to help me out to get awesome things like this. And it came with a pop filter too. So it was just a huge opportunity I had to jump on. But just to roll out right into what I wanted to get you all's opinion on about work. So I work with so many different people, and I'm not just talking about in my department. I just mean in my building, at my company, whether it be direct interaction via phone call or face-to-face interaction, or whether it be, not so direct via email or, email chain, letters, et cetera, et cetera. And you come across so many different personalities, and you do come across people who are content with where they are. They make good money, or they make enough money for their situation, and they don't want to, take the next step and move on. And that's fine. Everybody's different. You have some people who just look at the job as a pit stop, where they're using that job as just to fulfill a certain area in their life, whether it be to pay off student loans, whether it be to go to school, et cetera, et cetera. And then they move on to something else, which is fine. No job should be permanent. Nothing should be permanent. Everything is temporary. So I do get that. What's tough for me to tolerate are the people who are unhappy and are still there. And I just wanted to get you all's opinion on how you deal with people like that. Because I feel like you got two types of unhappy people. You have the people who are unhappy, but they don't want to be unhappy. So they seek for ways to improve their situation. They want to know how to talk to this coworker or this supervisor or this team leader about whatever. How do I talk to this person about this to improve my situation? How do I talk to my boss about getting promoted? Or, hey man, this other person got a promotion before I did, and it's really bumming me out. How do I deal with that? And then you got the other type of unhappy people who just want to be unhappy. They're just like happy with being unhappy. They like being irritated at every little thing. They complain about normal basic job functions. They complain about getting emails. Like, it's your job to get emails. They complain about having to dress a certain way at certain times. They complain about meetings. They complain about having to stay late or come in early. And I feel like these are a lot of things that just come with the job, just come with the nature of the job. And they're just really difficult to deal with. And it's a two-part question, and I want to get everybody's opinion on. The first thing is, how do you deal with somebody who just doesn't like their job? And not necessarily that you do like yours, but you just don't dislike it. Like, let's just say you're indifferent. You either enjoy what you do or you just don't hate what you do. But you're around people who do hate what they do. They do hate where they are, and they hate what they have to do while they are where they are. How do you all deal with that? So that's the first question. The second question is, why do you think they're like that? I know some people just want to complain, but no job ever forces you to be where you are. And I feel like they come up with these reasons. Some are valid, some aren't. Or they'll say things like, oh, hey, I got bills to pay. Or, hey, I have kids to look out for and raise. Or, hey, I'm taking care of a relative. Or, hey, I have to pay off these student loans. You're right, but you'd have to do that regardless of where you worked at. So my thought process is, if you're going to have to do that regardless of where you work at, why not pick somewhere where you're not going to feel like you're just dreading the situation? And a lot of these times, I think the number one argument that I get anyway, that I don't always agree with, is they always equate it to pay. They always equate it to pay. I'm a firm believer that you should never be paid as much as you think you should. Ever. Because that means you hit your ceiling. I think you should always be worth more than what they pay you. If they pay you $10 an hour, be worth 12. If they pay you 12, be worth 15. If they pay you 15, be worth 18. Don't match because think about it, it's all subjective anyway. They're going to pay you how much they think your position is worth. They're not paying you based on you. So now you got to make them pay you based on you. And then once they do that, you got to take it up another notch. So the whole payment argument, it can be valid in some areas. I think other areas it's not really. I think it really boils down. Sometimes I remember asking this one young lady and she didn't like this. So we stopped talking after this, but she was just like somebody I was cordial with, wasn't like a friend or anything like this. But I think I told her something she didn't like. She didn't want to hear it. So that rubbed her off the wrong way. And, that was all she wrote. But she doesn't work there anymore, but she used to always walk around on her phone. She was never at her desk. She used to always talk to other people. She was late often, never stayed late for overtime, never came in early or over the weekend for overtime, was late to team meetings, like things like that type of employee, right? But was quick to complain about how much she made. So I remember asking her, like, how much should you make? Of course, she didn't know. She said, I don't know. I just need to be making more. I said, well, that's the first problem. You don't even know how much you should be making or you want to make, but you're saying you should make more. That just goes to show you it doesn't matter how much you make, you're going to feel like you should be making more. But secondly, would you hire you? That's what I said to her. I said, would you hire yourself? And she took offense to that. She was like, what do you mean? Of course. I was like, really? I was like, I'm going to keep it honest. I mean, every time I walk by your desk, you're on your phone. If you're even at your desk. I see you walking around the office on your phone. I see you taking extra breaks. I see all these different things. And you're saying you're a good worker and that you will hire yourself. You're in denial. Who you kidding? So, of course, she didn't like that. But I think that description fits a lot of different people. Now, are there people out there who are underpaid? Absolutely. And I feel like sometimes, and I'm be honest, y'all probably not going to like this. I'm starting not to care about what y'all think. But I think a lot of people will hear this and rub them the wrong way. Like, I feel like I'm levitating above you all. I'll have all of the answers. I don't. I'm just bringing a side of the argument to the equation that I think most people don't want to consider. I feel like they always want to. No one ever really wants to blame themselves. No one ever wants to blame themselves. It's always someone or something's fault as to why they're in the situation that they're in. They're only working where they're working at, not because they aced the interview, they did well, and that they sought the job out. They're only working where they're working at because they got bills to pay. They're getting paid where they're getting paid because management doesn't like them and there's no room for growth. Not because that they're never on their desk, they're taking a bunch of extended breaks and they're unproductive. They didn't get that promotion because someone else is a favorite and it's favoritism and that person got promoted, not because they just weren't qualified for the promotion. I'm sure we all know somebody like this. I'm sure we do. And I like to think that I have a pretty good work ethic. Of course, I'm biased, but I like to think I have a pretty good work ethic. So it bothers me when I see people in that situation. So I'm just curious, y'all. Like, what are y'all general thoughts? Do y'all agree or disagree with my stance? Let me know. And how do you deal with it when you're around that toxic, unproductive, complaining person at work? How do you deal with that? What do you do? How do you handle it? I would love to know. I would love to hear what you all have to say about that. I think it basically just boils down to standards and where they get them from. You know, what makes my work ethic away versus what makes someone else's work ethic away, and who you learn from. The biggest impact on me that I ever had was my first manager ever. I used to work at GameStop, and it was my first job. I got hired at 16 years old, was still in high school, and my first manager played, and I'll say plays because it's still present tense. My first manager played and plays a huge role on my work ethic. And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be where I am or who I am today. He was very impressionable. You know, he was like that big brother in the sense of like mentorship, but was also that boss that you wanted. And not everybody likes him. But I tell you, way more people like him than dislike him. And ever since I met him, I kind of modeled who I was as a leader and as a worker after him. And every boss after that has influenced me. So I like to think I'm an amalgamation of all of the bosses that I've worked for. And they've all left some sort of impression on me. And sometimes I just try to give the person that I'm talking to the benefit of the doubt if they didn't have that network, if they didn't have a great resource of leadership in their previous jobs, their previous positions. I tell people all the time, and this is actually a quote from one of my old district managers. He's like the king of quotes. But you don't work for a company, you work for people. And the reason that quote to me was so powerful is because you don't realize that in the moment until you realize you're coming to work because you don't want to have your coworker have to pick up your slack, or you're spending an extra hour, at work so you don't disappoint your boss, or that's when you start to realize like, hey, I'm really not working for this company anymore. I'm working for this person, and you become a little bit more invested when you work with and work for the people you like. I mean, you don't have to go to work to make friends. You don't. You don't have to go to work to find your wife or your husband. You can just have coworkers. I was just told a story today that somebody who worked for Amtrak for 30 years never hung out with their coworkers for 30 years. That's amazing to me. I mean, in some cases, you spend more time with these people than you do your own family. Sometimes you spend more time at work than you do at home. Conscious, anyway. I mean, you could be at home for like 12 hours, 13 hours, but spend 8 of those hours sleep. And I'm exaggerating. I don't even know who gets 8 hours of sleep anymore, but you get my point. You're conscious, up and awake more at work than you are at home in most cases, especially if you work full time. And, it helps when it's not necessary. I will argue that in some cases it is, but it's not necessary to like the people that you work with. But it helps. It really does. And I think that's the problem. I think a lot of people going in with the mindset like, I'm not here to make friends. And I think there's two different things. You can go here like, I'm not here to make friends. As in, I'm here to do a job. I'm here to perform well. I'm here to be the best person that I can be. But be open to creating new relationships and making new friends and, becoming close to some coworkers. But then you got the other type of people like, nope, I'm not here to make friends, period. Like that's, and look, I disagree, but that's okay. For you. Everybody's different. That's okay for you. But I think just to go to work and be miserable, because that's reciprocated. When you go to work with that mindset, like, I'm not going to be social, I'm not going to speak to people, I'm going to come in, keep my head down, do my work. Certain people might appreciate that about you, how you can remain focused. You're not socializing. You can just do your work. But people are going to be less likely to pick up your slack. And trust me, you're going to have slack. You're not levitating above anybody else. You're not this all-powerful, perfect worker. You're going to have slack. Whether it's, you don't stay late, or whether it's you can't make it in for OT, or whether you have to call out because you're sick or whatever. How much more likely is someone going to want to give 110% to pick up your slack if they like you versus just doing the bare bones minimum? So there's a folder that I have at work, an inbox, an email inbox that I manage, help to manage. I am not the main person responsible for managing this inbox, but I have the ability to do it. I have access to this inbox. And I like the person that manages. So I like when I'm not doing anything, when I don't have a urgent or priority or urgent matter or priority or anything like that, I'm helping my coworker out with this inbox because I want to. Now, there are times I go into this inbox, I'm like, holy crap, this is full. But there are times where it's like, hey, it's not bad, but I want to help him out. Just because I like him. I mean, to be honest, I like the person I work with. But can you imagine if I didn't? Like, if he was a jerk, if he came in, he just put his head down, we didn't interact at all or anything like that, and I opened up the folder and it had 200 items in it, and I'm just like, oh, well, I wasn't asked, so, oh, well. I know y'all know somebody like that. They do the bare minimum all the time. They do the bare minimum either because they're lazy, or they do the bare minimum because they don't want to help the person that they're helping. That's really what it is. So it's difficult to deal with people like that. It really is. So I would love to know how you all feel about dealing with toxicity and dealing with negative people in general. So I'm wrapping this up. I really appreciate everybody just sticking around and hanging in there. And this will be a regular thing. I will be back. I am back, I should say. And I'm going to start recording. So I talked about this last year, you all. Like, this is like cutting grass season. So I had to move this on over to like weekends. I'm going to try to do Sunday nights because I'm not going to lie. I know you guys, I know this is hard to believe, but there were times like I woke up this week with the intent, because I took a week off from the gym. So I'm like, oh, what better opportunity to record this show? So I got up to record the show, and no exaggeration, every day this week, lawns getting cut, grass getting cut. There's lawnmowers out there, weed whackers, etc., loud trucks. And it's just like, I don't know what it is. I figure like it'd be nice if everybody did this on the same day. But it's like every day this week. And I do have a better microphone now, great. But you all know I record this in my kitchen. So sound travels. And it's pretty loud, intense sound. So luckily I don't really have to worry about that on Sunday night. So I'm going to try to drop these once a week like I've been doing in the past. And see if we can't get a routine up out of this thing here. But again, I appreciate everybody for sticking around. I appreciate everybody for being patient. And I'm really excited to have some topics. The topics that I have laid out for the next couple of episodes, I'm really excited about. And I'm going to see if I can get some good interviews into for you all to be entertained by. In the meantime, as always, I'll keep talking if you'll listen. Take care.